Is it too late to take advantage of the short-term rental tax loophole for 2025 if you have not acquired a property yet? Well, I've got 7 different tactics or strategies, whatever you want to call them, that I'm going to recommend for anyone who's seriously considering to still try and take advantage of short-term rental tax loophole in 2025. And I'm going to read through what these 7 different things are, and then we're going to discuss each one of them in a little bit more detail. I'm going to break them down for you, okay? So the very first one is an existing Airbnb, which I'm sure you may know that one. But the real question is, aren't these all bad? That's what everyone always asks me. Like, aren't these bad? Like, why are they selling them in the first place? Why would anyone sell a good Airbnb? And so we're going to break down that one a little bit more. Moving more quickly, pretty straightforward. Being able to move more quickly, I'm going to talk on that. Furnishing the basics. So if you get the property now, how can we just furnish it to be able to get it listed, right? And what does that look like? What kind of furniture should we use? How should we consider those sort of things? Then we're going to go pushing off permits and large renovations. We're also going to talk about turnkey properties in comparison to large renovation properties. We're also going to talk about sub 2 deals and also all cash deals instead as well. And then I'm going to give some general recommendations just on how to think about this, ensuring that you're still hitting the 7-day requirement, the material participation, and then also those 100% bonus is still going to be here for next year. So talk about 7 different strategies. We're going to go in deep on each of those. Let's get into it. The very first one is existing Airbnbs. That is without a doubt going to be the fastest way because it's already up and running. It already is furnished. You're taking over the listing or you're starting up the new listing, but with all those existing bookings under your profile. But very quickly you get it and it can be turned over to you. And if you can get it an off-market deal as well, right? As an existing Airbnb, that naturally is going to move even quicker. So the question that everybody always asks me when I say existing Airbnb is they say, why would anyone sell a profitable existing Airbnb? Shouldn't I be concerned if they're selling an existing Airbnb? And I'm going to give some examples to kind of work through this, all right? So there's one deal right now where it is an existing Airbnb, and one of my favorite clients is most likely going to be moving forward on it. You know her, name's Allison. She came back for property too. And the reason I love this deal is because the current owners don't know what they're sitting on. They're literally sitting on a pile of gold and they have no idea. And the reason being is because the backyard of this deal is gigantic. It's not as big as this one, but it's gigantic. And there's so much room to be able to add in amenities. And all of the competition in that market has just regular properties. And with those regular properties, they're still performing really well, but they don't have nearly as large of a backyard. And so for this property, it's an existing Airbnb. She's going to put a bunch of stuff in the backyard. It's automatically going to be more exciting in comparison to the competition. And even if she just did as well as the competition is doing currently, the property is still going to absolutely crush it. So in this scenario, the host just doesn't know what they're sitting on. Now, another thing here is a lot of other hosts will pull their cash flow forward by about 5 years and trade up, okay? So what that means is, let's say that with my property, I was making $10,000 a year in cash flow. Well, if I'm sitting on $50,000 of equity, if I then sell that property, I can pull 5 years worth of cash flow. So, $10,000 over 5 years is $50,000. If I can pull all that out of the property right now, I capture that all now. And then I can take that equity that I've gained and any additional money that I would have put in towards that down payment, I could trade that up to a bigger property that could potentially, instead of making $10,000 in cash flow, make 20 or 30 or whatever $1,000 in cash flow throughout the entire year. And so a lot of people will trade up and also pull out their cash flow on deals. And that's usually some of the main reasons why people sell existing Airbnbs. The other one is because they fail and it sucks and it's not cash flowing and it's not a good property. And obviously you want to avoid those ones like the plague because you're just going to be taking over someone's shitty Airbnbs that's not going to make you any money. So do your research, review those deals, make sure that you can see something that maybe the existing Airbnb host doesn't see, or hopefully come across a host who is trying to trade up into a bigger property. Proper underwriting and proper review of data will definitely allow you to do that. Check out any of my other videos, and I pretty much talk about that almost every single time. That's point number 1. Let's go into point number 2, which is move faster, right? Move quicker. So many people drag their feet when it comes to, looking for a property or making a decision. If anything, really what you should do is learn how to make a decision faster and better. That's one thing that I've actually trained myself on. I've watched a lot of content around it from YouTube and different, people that I like to learn from, is learning how you can make a decision faster. Because if you can make faster decisions, you can multiply how much quicker you get things done. And so if you're watching this video, you're likely somebody, I'm not trying to call you out here, but if you're watching this, you haven't made a decision yet for 2025, but you're still trying to figure out how to do that to be able to see if you can actually make that happen. And so, moving quicker, a lot of the this part of moving quicker is being able to make decisions faster. And so I would look into how to make decisions faster. The next one, so point 3 is going to be furnish the basics. This is the reality of 2025 right now. If you're going to get a property that is completely unfurnished and you want to turn it into an Airbnb, well, you still have to get it up and running, get guests in there who are going to stay less than 7 days, right? And be able to prove to the IRS that this is an Airbnb and not just, something that you bought, a home that you bought. You got to actually materially participate, right? And so you don't really have a lot of time for making the home perfect. And so you just got to get the basics in there. Everything that is needed in the kitchen needs to be in there. You need a living room, you need beds, you need the bathroom stuff. You need all of those things as fast as you possibly can. And the reality is, I always go back and forth on this one, and I truly don't know the best answer, but I'm going to kind of pose a question. You can kind of sort it out for yourself if you find yourself in this situation. Is should you, right, get used furniture or cheap furniture and just get it in there as fast as you can so that you can actually get the property listed and get it up and going, right? Because to do the property properly, you typically are going to need the right design. You're going to need the right aesthetics. You're going to need the right touches throughout the entire house. Maybe you need some wallpaper. Maybe you need a specific couch. Maybe you need a certain rug. And those things sometimes are not going to be super quick. Like, yes, some are going to show up in like 2 weeks, but some of the stuff that you want to order could take 3 months, depending on where you're buying it from, for it to actually get into the house. And so that in that case, you obviously can't get that furniture that you want. And so you may have to go with something that is not what you want, but also is maybe not ideal for that actual house. Like maybe it's a couch that is smaller or more uncomfortable than you want, but you can get it quickly. And so you might actually have to just get furniture that you genuinely don't want to keep long term, but you need to get it up and running as fast as possible so that you can take advantage of the short rental tax loophole in 2025. And so it may make sense just to get something used, right, from the local Goodwill or whatever it may be, Salvation Army, get it into the property, get the property rented, and then actually get the piece of furniture that is going to be a better piece for that property to match the aesthetic, the design, or whatever it is that you're going for. So that's something that you're going to have to work through when you actually look at all the list of everything that you're going to get for the property and try to see like what's actually going to take too long, and then remove those things and find an alternative for that in the meantime. All right. So that's just one way to think about this. And this next point 4, pushing off permits and larger projects, is actually going to tie in with that a little bit, because, if you can't wait to get a couch that's going to take 2-3 months to get there, you can't wait 2-3 months to get permits for whatever it is that you're going to do to the property as well. And so naturally, you're going to have to push that stuff off into 2026. Now, the good thing here is that permits do take a while. In most markets, they do take a while. Government moves slow. Who would have thought? And so in that case, you can actually start the permitting process, get the permits, and then in 2026, choose a time frame to shut down the listing to actually do the things that you want to do to the property to make it the property that you want it to be, right? And this can be so many different things. Like maybe you're putting in another bathroom, or you're converting a garage, or you're adding a bedroom, or you're adding in a different window to turn like that spare space into another bedroom, or you're adding in, pickleball court into the backyard, or whatever it may be. These things require permits depending on where you're actually located. And so naturally you can start the process, but you're not going to do it in 2025. And all this does mean that your revenue in 2025 is not going to be the best that it could possibly be. So you just got to try and do your best to estimate what you think you can make during that time in 2025, and ask yourself, like, can you carry the property if it loses money during this time frame until you can actually shut down the listing, turn it to what you want to turn it into, and then start receiving the income that you want to be able to receive from it, right? But there's going to be carrying costs during that time frame. So just make sure to check your underwriting and keep that in mind as you're going through it, because it will be a factor when you're doing this as well. But again, you get your tax savings, that helps cover the bill and save a bunch of money, and you can put it towards the property and all these different little things. It's all just an equation at the end of the day, but you want to make sure you're accounting and thinking about each of these different things as you go through it. Now, point 7, I'm going to jump to rather than going to point 5. Point 5 was sub 2 deals, but I'm going to jump straight to point 7, which is find a turnkey property. I think this one's pretty straightforward and goes along with point 3 and point 4 that we were just talking about. Because you obviously can't buy a property that's going to need a huge renovation if you also want to take advantage of the 2025 tax savings. And so then therefore your pool of properties that you can actually look for are going to be limited. Now, with that being said, you're obviously not going to go for a gut fixer-upper, one where it's like everything needs to be gutted and you need to put it all back together. That's pretty obvious. But what about a property where like the kitchen needs to be changed? Like maybe the countertops need to be changed, the backsplash needs to be changed, and maybe like the cabinetry needs to be painted or something like that, right? If you're looking at something like that, then obviously you can just not do that. It's going to look outdated. It's not going to be super desirable, but you can just not do that during that time frame. And then you can do that in 2026. But you get the idea, right? So you don't want to get a property that just needs a ridiculous amount of renovation for anyone to even like book the home in the first place, because you still need people to book the home during this time frame. And so you got to get it to a standard where you can still get bookings through, right? So keep that in mind. Turnkey property, no renovation, that's ideally what you're looking for, or super light renovation that you can push off to 2026 and still get your bookings. All right, point 5, going back, is sub 2 deals. Now, I have never done a sub 2 deal. I do not know sub 2 deals inside and out. I have friends and people in my surroundings that have done a whackload of sub 2 deals, and I know that a lot of people talk about the benefits of being able to move quickly with a sub 2 deal that you turn into an Airbnb, right? With that being said, Pace Morby hates Airbnb. Well, doesn't hate Airbnb. He always tries to talk people out of doing Airbnbs when it comes to sub 2 deals. And I finally heard him on a podcast explain why, and I could not agree more. He explained, he's like, I don't like Airbnbs, I don't like people when people try doing them and like all this kind of stuff. But then he said, he's like, but if you're doing like a super property, like or something along those lines, he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, that makes sense. And I finally understand why he hates Airbnbs. He hates Airbnbs because the vast majority of properties are not good Airbnbs. Regardless if you have a 2 or 3% interest rate, the vast majority are still not going to work out as good Airbnbs. You need strong demand, right purchase price, well put together property, and a good, interest rate and whatnot, and the property can work out. I have a client, the very first one that I worked with, she has a 9% interest rate and she made $20,000 in profit throughout her first year. The interest rate doesn't matter that much. It's all the other pieces that matter, right? How much demand and the actual purchase price of the home and what is your competition doing and all those things I just mentioned. And so what I think is happening is Pace Morby is absolutely scarred from all of the people that have gone through his community, got these super cheap rates and thinking, oh, I have a low basis here, therefore I'm going to be able to turn a profit because I'm paying less in expenses, but then find out that all these Airbnbs are losing because they don't actually have enough demand to offset even the lower prices that they have. And so then therefore Pace Morby is genuinely scarred from this. But with that being said, if you understand the data, if you understand how to underwrite, if you understand how to put together a property properly without it even being a super property, they can still turn a profit. I'm living proof of that. All the properties that I have helped people with has proven that over and over and over and over again. And maybe Pace and I just need to have a little bit of a conversation. Anyways, we can talk about that another day. What I'm trying to say is that if you're going to do a sub 2 deal, yes, obviously you can move faster. Just please make sure it's a good deal, just like the existing Airbnb. Just because it's an existing Airbnb does not mean you just take it over. Underwrite it, confirm it's good, make sure everything makes sense, and then go from there. All right. And then the last thing here is an all cash deal. So there's kind of 2 benefits to this. If you can do it, if you can't, just, hang up, stop this video. I do have some other things I do want to mention here as well, but an all cash deal, if you can go all cash on a deal, the chances of you winning that deal over somebody else goes through the entire roof, because now the seller doesn't have to worry about if you can actually get approved for your deal or not. Additionally, if you can go all cash, you close on the property faster, right? You don't have to wait for, the lenders to get approved and to be able to make sure that they can actually lend on the deal. And the more creative the deal is, the harder it's even going to be. I'm living proof of that right now. I've been under contract on a deal for nearly 2 months, and we've just been going back trying to find an actual lender who will lend for us this entire time frame because of the fact that it's rural, it's small, it's unique. And those are really difficult things to be able to get a loan on. Now, naturally, if you're in a more like standard location in a suburb and you're getting a regular home, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to, still move forward with it. But an all cash offer and deal naturally is going to help you move quicker. Which is pretty straightforward stuff. So that'll help you move things quicker. So with that all being said, right, what I'm suggesting here is it still possible? Yes. Okay. Just so you guys know, for us internally, we have a hard cutoff of October 15th. We won't be telling our clients that we can help them save on 2025 taxes or It's never confirmed. It's never a guarantee. So I can't say telling, right? It's never a guarantee that we'll be able to, if they start with us today, that they'll be able to get a property by 2025, because people sometimes are their own worst enemies, and they'll review 100 plus deals and still not move on anything. And so the reality is that if you do, for our clients, if they do start before October 15th, we still believe that's enough time to be able to find a deal, move quickly, get it set up, and be able to materially participate, which means we have like less than a month here to be able to do that for our clients and yourself personally. So I do think there's definitely still time within the time of this year. You just got to move quickly. And all of these things will definitely help. They're not 100% needed, but they will definitely help. And if you find yourself struggling, if you find yourself not being able to find a deal, just reach out to us, right? And see if we can actually help you do it within 2025. With all that being said, the beautiful thing about that big, beautiful tax bill that passed is that 100% bonus depreciation is back and is permanent, meaning it is not going away next year, at least for the next 3 years. It's not going to be going away. We'll see who gets voted into office in the next term, and we'll see what they do with that bill, if it continues and stays and all that different stuff. But for the next 3 years, it's not going anywhere. And so if you find yourself where you have been fully convinced that, you know, the SR tax loophole is the route that you're going to go to be able to save on taxes and invest your money and strategically plan for your future, but you just feel like you've been struggling to find a deal for this year and actually like feeling confident to move forward, well, maybe it makes sense to start looking for a deal for 2026 right now, right? Start planning, start researching, start looking, say to yourself, like, I'm convinced I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen in 2026, and I'm not going to push it off to September to make this happen again. And instead, I'm going to find a deal early next year, and I'm going to get it up and running, and I'm going to make sure it's good, and I'm going to take my time, like I'm going to make it happen, right? And so my recommendation is move as quickly as you can for 2025, but move as quickly as you can for 2026 if you are going to make it a strategy for next year as well. All right, hopefully you found that all helpful. Those are my different strategies. If you like this, comment, subscribe, tell me what you like and what you don't like, and we'll go from there. See you in the next one, guys.